Hi there, and welcome to this Insomnia Insight episode in which we have a big reveal. At least it was to me. I hope it'll be to you too. I think there is a big reveal here. I'm curious to see what you'll think, but bear with me. I think this is not going to be too long. But I want to actually, before we start getting to this episode and why it's practical, why it's helpful, I just want to share how it happened. You know, this has been on my mind for a couple of months. So what happened was I was putting my 7-year-old girl to bed, and she fell asleep. And she still to this day, she often wakes up during the night, and I go over to her bed again, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyone out there with kids who are 7, 8 years or whatever, and you know, I think that's totally normal. I have no control over her sleep, and the less I try to control it, I think the better things are. I'm a sleep doctor. I'm a sleep coach. My 7-year-old still wakes up. I think that's totally normal. That's besides the point, though. What happened was she fell asleep, and I wanted to go to my own bed where my wife is, etc. And at that moment, you know, I actually woke up myself. I had fallen asleep, and my daughter was sleeping. I saw this. It was kind of this moment. I saw this thing. I saw that if I saw that there was kind of like this two paths. You know, I could kind of tiptoe out, just hoping, praying, wanting, like, I please don't wake up again. Or I could go like, I don't know what's going to happen. She may wake up again, and what can I do, right? I saw this, like, the path of trying, wanting, hoping that there is like trying to have some sort of control, and the path of not having control. And this is not the big insight, you know, it comes later. But I saw that, and I saw that it was obviously more beneficial for me to be in a place where, like, if she wakes up again, that's totally fine. That was more peaceful and more pleasant, all right? But what I saw right after that was the big insight, okay? So we're going to get to that. But this is just a backdrop why this episode came to be. So again, we can imagine that you're on this path, like the path of light, or whatever you want to call it. Like, you're on this path, right? And suddenly there's a fork. There's a fork in the road, okay? And there are two like road signs there. There are two signs up there on a post, and one says the path of struggle, or maybe the path of control. I couldn't decide, so I chose both. So let's just call it the path of struggle, this way, okay? And then the path of peace or freedom is this way, okay? You see that. You see the fork in the road. And that's kind of why I saw that when I woke up that night. I saw the fork in the road, if you will. And that in itself, that does require some awareness. You know, if I in that place hadn't kind of paid attention to my thoughts, I would have seen the fork. And you know, a jellyfish doesn't see the fork in the road. And I like the jellyfish analogy, because, like, it's so simple, yet it kind of reacts to its surroundings, right? If it's like, if you can get stung by a jellyfish, obviously it knows somehow when it's threatened, and it can sting you or something like that. It can somehow react to its surroundings. But obviously, a jellyfish is not aware of any, you know, thoughts or emotions or choices of works or anything like that. And sometimes we humans, we are kind of like the jellyfish, right? We just react. We're like, I feel this way, I can't feel it, or I have to do something about it. Now I feel this way, and I have to do something about that. Like, you know, we can be in this, like, state of just pure reactivity. You know, some people call it sleepwalking, or just not being aware at all. Like, you know, we can be in that state. So, so if you're new to this channel, what I talk about here may be like a little confusing. I think you best start with, like, check out the playlist and, you know, learn the basics. But that said, I think this is very important. And again, with a little awareness, you can see this fork, which is kind of which is a kind of requisite for, like, applying this teaching, is seeing the fork. And now here's something that I think is really important, which is that we can be in this jellyfish mode for a long time, but when we have trouble sleeping, that is kind of an invitation to see these forks. You have them, you know, there's so many of these forks there. It's like so many questions of, like, should I do this or shouldn't I do that? Like, should I get out of bed or should I stay in bed? Should I turn off the TV? Should I not turn off the TV? Should I do this or should I do that? And there's so many of these, like, ideas of, like, I probably should do this, but I shouldn't do that, etc. So there are a lot of these forks. And after a while, after learning about sleep, you can see that it actually doesn't matter if you're in bed or not. The fork is actually, the path is, like, of control, is like, I have to be in bed, or I have to leave the bed. That's kind of the path towards control, right? And struggle. because we can't control sleep. So when you try to control it, you have so much struggle. We're using that analogy again. When you see that it doesn't matter if I'm in my bed or not in my bed, as long as I'm not trying to control sleep, that's the path of peace. Okay, so you have so many of these forks in the when you're in a place of struggling with sleep. So I think this is really an invitation to start seeing these forks. So let's say, you kind of understand the concept here, you understand the fork, maybe you experience these forks. Well, here is the thing. So here's the big reveal. Here it comes, okay? This is what I saw in that moment, and I think it's really helpful, is this. I must take the path of peace is the path of struggle, all right? Think about it for a second. Or same thing, just using the other words I picked here. I must take the path of freedom is the path of control. And this is, I think, so true, but so tricky. And how about this one? I must avoid the path of struggle or control. Yeah, that is the path of struggle and control. So what I saw and what I believe here is that, when you see that, okay, leaving the struggle, abandoning the struggle is, that is the way to peace. That's the way how I arrive at a place where I sleep well. Abandoning the struggle is how I get to a place where I sleep well. But then when you go, so I have to take the path of peace, I have to take that path, then there's actually struggle because you're trying to achieve something that you don't have control over, again, in a different way. Or on the flip side of this, so here's the other thing, taking either path is okay with me. That's the path of peace and freedom. So actually being okay with being on the path of struggle is the path of peace, And so it's really, really tricky, but I believe this to be really, really true. Because again, if you're willing to be on the path of struggle, then there is no struggle. Right? Then there is peace. So how does this translate in a little bit more practical way to insomnia, trouble sleeping, etc.? Well, when your thoughts and your true intent, you truly believing in this, like I'm willing to be awake, when that's true to you, I'm willing to experience anxiety, I'm okay with feeling tired, then you are on the path of freedom and peace. Things will get easier and easier for you. Sleep will happen easier. You'll have less struggle. You'll feel lighter and brighter, etc. On the flip side, I have to be willing to be awake. I have to be willing to experience anxiety. I have to be okay with feeling tired. This is the path of struggle and control. You're trying to control yourself, control your thoughts, control your mind to achieve something. And this is the path of struggle. And it often leads to self-criticism. Oh no, I couldn't do it. I understand it so well. I have to be on the path to peace, but I can't get it. I'm still struggling. You see, this is the path of struggle and control again. So finally here, like 3 points here, like how, trying to make this a little bit more practical. Okay, what is the teaching here? Well, so there's kind of 3 steps here. So number 1 is to see the fork, right? When you're in kind of that, you're super reactive, you're in kind of jellyfish mode, you can't see the fork. So the first thing is to be willing to see what's going on inside, see the thoughts, see the emotions, and you will see the fork. You'll see the fork. You'll see that when you have that choice between like trying to do something to control sleep or letting things be, right? You will see that fork. So that's the number 1. Number 2 is like see how it works. See the paradoxical nature of the fork. See that trying to achieve something, trying to be on the path of peace is the path of struggle. And being okay with being on the path of struggle is the path of peace. That is kind of number 2. And then naturally, of course, the question always becomes like, how do I do this? And this is where it becomes, let things sort themselves out. Just see this, see what happens, and the brain will take care of everything else. Remember that you didn't do anything to have insomnia. It was like premeditated. You didn't sit down and say like, I have to think this, I have to do this, I have to do this to have insomnia. It happened all by itself. There's this confusion in the brain that kind of like, that, became this struggle. And in the same token, it's not, you cannot decide what you're going to think or decide what you're going to feel or anything like that. And in just the same way that insomnia happens kind of automatically all by itself, when you start to see these things, number 3, things will sort themselves out. They will automatically sort themselves out when you let them. So hope this will be helpful. And when you start seeing these things, and you start, when you start letting things be in this way, you start to see things this clearly, at this level of clarity, you will arrive where you want to be. So I know this is a little tricky teaching, a little confusing. So again, please let me know in the comment section what you thought, and we can explore this teaching further together. Until then,